All right, thank you all for sticking around to the last session. My name is Sean Valencia. I am here visiting from Tokyo, Japan, and I work for a company called ARM Treasured Data. So today we're going to dive into how to personalize the customer experience, and we're going to do that keeping in mind a certain type of marketing technology called CDP. Now, the number of CDP solution providers has been greatly increasing recently, and one of the big reasons for this is just these days the customer holds so many cards in their pockets. So everyone, all the customers out there, they have so much access to all different kinds of data, say customer reviews, the influencers, the various ways to compare different products out there that really we're finding that brands these days, to stay competitive, you really need to get down there and provide a deep, personalized experience with them. So you may not necessarily be familiar with our brand, so just a little bit about where we come from is our company is based in the US, and our next biggest office is in Tokyo, but our founding team was really big in the open source data community. So technologies such as FluentD, HiveMall, et cetera, this is all open source big data tech that was created by our founding team before they got together and formed a company based on big data solutions. So I think that before we get into diving into the real use cases of how to go and create a personalized experience, it's good to take a step back at the evolution of customer data technology. So when you go back a couple decades ago, you have the CRM. So the CRM originated as a way to consolidate data for customers that have already entered the sales funnel. So now it's a way to organize the data throughout the sales process and really begin empowering your sales team. However, that kind of technology was mainly for the leads and customers that you already had interactions with. And that's a little bit later, the DMP technology came about. And the DMP was focused on acquiring new customers. So generating new leads and being able to use data to target these leads. And so DMP technology would use anonymous third-party data to create very targeted marketing campaigns through networks such as a DSP, et cetera. And over time, many kinds of platforms began evolving around CRM and DMP technology as just the amount of possibilities of marketing with data began to increase. But there wasn't really a way to bridge these two worlds of, say, the first-party CRM data and the second and third-party data that was in a DMP. And that kind of led to the evolution of the CDP, which came about in 2016. And lately, more and more CDP solution providers are starting to come up, especially within the past year or so. And so the difference between some of the previous platforms that we had in the past was that now that you have one place to go to view all the first, second, and third-party data that may be being generated amongst all these various different kinds of platforms. So, these days it seems like every time we turn around, there's these new platforms springing up, and these are this is the advertisements that they've received. This is the interactions on the website, interactions on our social media channels. They came into a retail location and made a purchase. So how can we begin optimizing and automating each of these stages? And that's another important thing to consider, because if you're just looking at each of these steps of the customer journey siloed, then say one thing that could happen is maybe the customer just makes a purchase, and then you immediately want to kind of probably automate, say, the advertisements on complementary products, add-ons, et cetera, rather than them continuing to seem the same marketing for the current product. Because I can admit that there's been some times in the past where I myself have been a little turned off by maybe I just purchased this product and then 2 weeks later, say, I see an advertisement from the company of, oh, this is the product that I just bought 2 weeks ago is 20% off. So, being identifying and thinking of the whole customer journey, and that if we have a way to kind of map it and communicate and tailor and automate the communications at each of these steps, then you can begin avoiding that and getting the most ROI out of it. So another kind of technology that's emerging with CDP is predictive scoring. So this is AI learning models that's starting to become more commonplace in marketing. And for these kind of predictive scoring models to work, you need a lot of different kinds of data. So if you were to just say take a CRM and apply it to a CRM alone to a predictive scoring mechanism, it's very unlikely that the results are going to be ideal. But for when it comes to AI and machine learning, the more data that you're feeding AI, the more possibilities that you can achieve. So we can take a look at some of the real-world use cases that different kind of industries are starting to implement with predictive scoring technology. So by being able to kind of consolidate data, say, from a CRM, a POS system, web history, etc., then you can teach a predictive scoring algorithm how to achieve a certain goal. So how do you begin utilizing predictive scoring? Well, it starts with identifying a goal. So some of these goals are going to differ by industry. So if we take a look at, say, consumer goods and automotive appliances, some of the things that these companies are trying to predict these days, okay, what is the probability of conversion for an entire lead base? What kind of upsell and cross-sell opportunities exist within our product? So if you are, say, a retail store, maybe you have these kind of products within the store, what's going to be the ideal way to take a group of products and then market that cross-sell and to a certain customer segment. Transit possibility is in very urban areas. Where a customer actually has to travel to a physical location. Maybe that's a retail store, maybe that's a showroom, or maybe that's an actual event space. Sometimes, like, say, food and beverage companies, they may have factory tours, etc. But some of this real-world marketing data that's being generated, a predictive scoring model can be set up to say, okay, we're going to take and look at our entire lead base and teach this model, okay, how can we predict which customers are likely to come to this physical space? And therefore, after doing that, you can start thinking and tailoring your marketing message specifically for that, and actually diving in and optimizing your marketing spend to just reach a smaller segment that's highly likely to convert other than that. So when you take a look at, say, the insurance industry, one very common predictive scoring technique that's being used by them is okay, how can we predict churn? And this goes beyond insurance. It's more for just service companies in general. So if we are providing a service, what we want to do is everything in our power to prevent customers from canceling that service. Well, what this kind of AI and predictive scoring technology and marketing is starting to be able to accomplish was, okay, we create a segment of, say, our customers who have converted. The system is going to go through and take a look at, okay, what are all the different data attributes and behaviors that have accounted for these customers who canceled or stopped our services. And then it's going to create a model. Okay, let's apply this model to the rest of our customer base. And then what you want to do after applying a model like that is, okay, how can we identify customers who are highly likely to potentially churn, maybe moderately likely, largely unlikely, and really, really unlikely to churn. So then you can devote more marketing effort to that very likely to churn, and as well as notify, say, your sales team on the ground. Maybe they want to start making some calls, et cetera. And so really these, as the abundance of marketing data is just exponentially growing, and now possibilities are getting out there to kind of connect all of this data together in a one data platform. Just the opportunities are really endless with regards to how various industries are integrating these predictive scoring use cases. Now, when it comes to kind of like the frontiers of personalization, a lot of times, historically, marketing has been driving this. But what we're increasingly starting to see is that, as more devices are starting to generate data through IoT, et cetera, right now we're on the verge of 5G, which is really going to be blowing open the possibilities of IoT in the enterprise space. This kind of technology is going to be another way for your brand to communicate and interact with your customer base. So rather than just thinking of, okay, we need to start thinking of the data in our CRM, the data on our website, the data in our marketing channels, but also what kind of data is a car generating? What kind of data is being generated within all these sensors being now installed in retail stores, right? And I mentioned I'm coming from Japan. Japan right now is all in on robots, and you're starting to see more robots being created in, say, retail stores, et cetera. And that's going to be, by combining just the data being generated from this kind of technology with the data that the company has on their customers and the data that the marketing department has generated, that's adding whole new layers into, okay, how can this new emerging technology interact with our customers? So though CDP technology in general was born out of marketing and born out of, say, serving customers, an evolution of CRM to DMP to now CDP, we're starting to see some use cases of companies that were traditionally marketing focused almost using this data as an IoT platform. Now, one area that we're really charging forward with this is, say, retail. So an example of a real-world use case that we've seen in Japan is a very large Japanese department store. What they've done is they have rigged their department store with sensors, and now the marketing team has been able to create these profiles over time based on the loyalty program, maybe enriching some of their first-party data with third-party data from outside the company. But it really becomes to, okay, how can we really communicate the right message in the department store at the right time? And so they actually created an app that kind of gamifies the department store shopping experience. So as a customer is visiting the department store and utilizing this app, the app is actually counting their steps within the department store. This department store has kind of set up a somewhat like virtual treasure hunt. But there's these IoT sensors in the store that's able to actually beam personalized offers directly to the customer as they're approaching different stores within the larger department store. And so this kind of next levels of personalization is only being made possible by being able to take a look at, okay, what are all the data sources that we've collected from, say, our marketing channels, our sales history, CRM, et cetera. But then, the new data that can be possible with these, IoT devices. And, we're seeing more and more use cases of, say, like RFID chips being able to manage inventory within stores. That same department store in the use case I just described, they also have weather sensors on top of their stores that are bringing weather data, and that's going into the CDP as well. So the customer shopping experience can be further analyzed based on the changes in weather. So when we're thinking about, okay, what is kind of the future and frontiers of data, I think right now we're sitting on these two worlds of there's the marketing world, and this is where the customer data platform is currently sitting. Okay, traditionally we were able to gain so many insights on the customers through these various marketing channels, various marketing platforms that we have. But also, we've been seeing these new devices that are starting to generate data. And that's been, this kind of physical device data world has been evolving as well. But the next generation innovation in personalization, we're starting to come with, okay, what's the overlap between these two worlds? So you have the customer data world, you have the device data world. What are the ways that now we can really personalize the experience by breaking down the barriers and consolidating data across all of these channels, both the sales, marketing, company channels, as well as these new devices that are starting to generate data. And that is kind of our vision of where the digital transformation is going. It's how can companies take a step back and reinvent how their brand is going to speak to and what kind of relationship their brand is going to have with customers going forward in the future, as we have this new fusion between marketing and technology, and this digital world and the physical world is starting to blend together. So let's jump into a few real-world use cases of what kind of ways different industries, different customers are starting to personalize their customer experiences with data technology. So one use case that we've seen is Shiseido. So Shiseido, it's a very large, well-known cosmetics brand. Originally, Shiseido had a customer loyalty program, and when you look at a customer loyalty program, that was one of the first ways and first avenues for marketers to begin collecting data and personalize the experience. But when you take a loyalty program on its own, there's only so much data that can be gained from just taking a look at that loyalty program. So one of the challenges that Shiseido had when looking for a CDP was, okay, what kind of data does our enterprise as a whole have, and what ways can we really reinvent our loyalty program by harnessing and integrating data from these various sources. So when looking to build a CDP, these are some of the data that Shiseido found that they have that they were able to actually consolidate and integrate within one package source. So first, their loyalty program is called Watashi Plus. They have retail locations, and that actually data was siloed in. That could be very useful to their loyalty program. Let's add that in. Data from being purchased on from mobile devices. Okay, enrich that as well. Now, a lot of times something, some kind of marketing spin that lots of companies sometimes engage in, but it's always kind of challenging to justify sometimes, is the physical event where we're going out and giving out samples. So maybe we want to go to, say, this kind of concert event, or if you're a energy drink company going to a concert, et cetera, you're going and trying to give out samples, engage with people in these physical spaces. Well, this is one avenue to connect data to, and if you're able to connect data from those physical events with, say, a loyalty program, then that's one way to see, okay, this actually had a positive boost for this customer, and that this investment in some of these physical events that we've been doing is absolutely worth it. So as Shiseido's going out and participating in various events, giving out samples, they're actually collecting email addresses or from another form and enriching this data as well. And now there's also data coming from like outside the company that could be enriched. So we talked about the DMP that traditionally had anonymous third-party data. Well, the CDP technology allows the first-party data to be enriched by data, say, with a DMP. So Shiseido was able to go use a DMP and bring in some additional attributes about their customers that they didn't have originally, such as some of their interests, age, etc. And now, when you take a full look at the customer, they know so much more about, okay, I have a full visualization of who this person is, and with their current tech stack, which would be ad networks, advertising through a DSP, various social media channels, etc. Now we can try and personalize the communication going through this. And some of the ways that they're engaging in this personalization would be, okay, let's take a look and try and anticipate, based on the data that we have, the analytics that we've done, what is the changes in taste for certain customer segments. So maybe taking a look at this customer segment, we can anticipate that as their, say, interest change or age changes, etc., maybe they're going to be more inclined to purchase this kind of product. And so that kind of innovation in their loyalty program and the long-term communications that they're doing with their customers was never possible by just having data and working with data within a loyalty program by itself. Now, another real-world example of a company implementing CDP would be, say, Subaru. Now, one challenge Subaru came to with onboarding a CDP was, okay, we want to try and map and manage a full, entire customer journey. And so Subaru went and they took a look at various different kinds of touch points that they had, but all these touch points were siloed. So, okay, as a automotive manufacturer, we're engaging in this advertising, ad placements, mass media advertising. That's happening in the awareness stage, but currently all that data is just stuck in the stage in these platforms that we're using. Also, some of these customers may be going to car media websites and checking out and trying to find and gauge interest on different kinds of cars. Now, when you go to that research and compare stage, the next stage, Subaru's customer is coming to the website and comparing different cars on the Subaru website. But again, this is another data silo. And yes, that kind of data can be analyzed, by itself, but there's a lot of insights to be gained by being able to see, okay, maybe for this one customer profile, maybe he or she visited this media site and then came and interacted with our brand on social media, viewed one of our advertisements across a media platform, and then visited our website. But before that, they couldn't do anything because there was just a big gap. And then the next stage in Subaru's customer journey map was the dealership search. So they would begin going and searching for dealership locations. This is giving, this is additional insight that can be utilized, such as say, okay, maybe this kind of customer profile is willing to, say, drive within this kilometer radius. So because they search for this dealership in this city, this dealership in this city, this dealership in this city, so maybe a customer with this kind of profile, we only want to target them within ads within a X square kilometer area to be more effective. And then they were able to also break down the bid area and connect this data as well. And then the next stage in the customer journey that they would found was that, okay, the prospect is going to pick one dealership to visit and then go in, take a look at the cars, do a couple test drives, et cetera. And this dealership is generating data, say, through a sales CRM, more, et cetera, and then finally, boom, they make the purchase. And then still there's the post-purchase life, which would be a loyalty program with some of these customers, the long-term service contracts, the after-sales support that we're giving these customers. And again, that was originally another data silo. And so what Subaru was able to do is identify the entire customer journey and then take a look and say, okay, with this one profile of this customer, he or she interacted with this, maybe one researched our cars on media sites, maybe they saw this advertisement, drove it to the website, they searched for these particular dealerships, they then came to this dealership, they made this purchase, this after-sales support was set up, and then this is the kind of communication that we're having with them in the long term. And by being able to harness data just across the entire customer journey, now in the long-term communications, Subaru is really able to personalize their long-term loyalty program with them by saying, like, okay, these are some of the interests of this particular customer that we learned about in the awareness stage when they say we're maybe searching through various third-party data sources like a media site. So maybe as even in the post-purchase stage, as we're sending them a newsletter, long-term communications, maybe he or she is going to be much more interested in, say, outdoor vehicles because they like sports, be interested in these large four-wheel drive vehicles, et cetera. And also Subaru is gaining lots of insights by being able to see, like, okay, of the prospective customers, what can we learn from these current profiles and segments that we're creating with this that can be applied to increasing the efficiency of our marketing spend when acquiring new customers. Now, I know we talked a lot about retail before with like the IoT, but another benefit that, say, retail companies could be gaining from connecting data sources would be really gaining insights and optimizing the efficiency of stores. And a use case for this would be a company like Muji used CDP to basically break down the barriers and integrate data from a loyalty app, an e-commerce platform, and a retail POS system. So by being able to take in all these data sources from many different areas, they're able to begin using their analytics tools and take a step back and say, okay, what kind of insights can we gain from this to begin tailoring and personalizing our marketing to get the most efficient outcome. And some of the insights that they were able to find were, okay, if someone makes, say, a purchase at a Muji store, within 35 days, they are most likely to come back and make another purchase. So this is the time for this kind of customer set. We really want to dig in and create a personalized promotion and serve them a very targeted offer, because that will probably highly like them, drive them back to a store or back to the e-commerce platform to make a purchase. Another thing that by connecting these various data sources Muji was able to find was, okay, what kind of product sets do customers frequently buy together? So maybe if you were to go to, say, the bath, body, cosmetics section of Muji, these are things that customers are coming maybe once a month, a couple times a month to purchase. A lot of times, maybe this customer segment that we have, we found that they made this combination of a purchase in the past of, say, this kind of soap, these kind of cosmetic products. Okay, So now we want to take and really tailor the cross-sell and personalize the cross-sell promotions that we're giving them to really drill down and target and increase the efficiency. And then another example of some of the insights that they found were the infrequent purchases, which is another important aspect. So say a product such as furniture, a customer may be coming into the store to purchase this very infrequently. Maybe they want to, when you think about buying a new house or going to an apartment, that's something that happens maybe only a few times in one's life. So with these kind of infrequent products, this is the time to really tailor and personalize cross-sell promotions. So because if we don't kind of create a good cross-sell offer right now at this point, then it's going to be a very, very long chance before we get to do it again. And so that's another optimization that Muji was able to do with regards to their personalized offers and cross-sell by combining all of these different channels. Now, when we're talking about the frontiers of technology and combining the physical data with the marketing world and the customer data, another avenue that we're seeing is just departments that were traditionally focused on marketing, just reinventing new services and new ways for the brand to interact with the customer. And this is happening with Pioneer. And Pioneer is actually using these platforms like CDP that were originally born for marketing to bring in IoT as well. And they're specifically using it for car telematics data. And so this is a use case from them in Japan. And they are currently taking in data from car telematics in Japan and using it to more effectively create to help improve driver efficiency. So now they're able to provide safe driving assistance, et cetera. And so, yes, the frontiers of technology are expanding, and this is being driven by marketing technology, and there's many more new ways for brands to interact with our customers. And that now we need to begin thinking about, okay, how can, the data that's being collected within our companies reinvent the ways that we are going to interact with our customers, the messaging that we're going to have, as well as the new services that we're going to be able to provide. So now I'll open the floor to questions, where if anyone has any questions about, say, CDP technology, personalizing marketing campaigns with data, or just anything at all, please feel free to ask. Mm-hmm.
My question, yeah, 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
The race is on. There you go.
The question is around the data that you're getting from the third party and second party.
Mm-hmm.
How do you match the data and bring into your system?
Oh, sorry, can you repeat that one?
Like, how do you match them or merge them together? Because you don't have the same level of information when you're getting from second party or third party as compared to you have in your database.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say if you're getting something from Google,
Mm-hmm.
they won't be able to provide you the unique key
Mm-hmm.
or any other third party. So how you're matching the data to create the profiling?
So it's going to depend on the CDP solutions provider and the different kinds of integrations that they have with various, say, third-party providers. One common solution could be sometimes a CDP provider could have an SDK that they may install on, say, the customer's website as well as their mobile app. But then they're also installing that SDK on a DMP or third-party provider. And that SDK may provide, say, a cookie that's going to allow a match to happen. And so depending on the platform provider, they may have that set up with various third-party data providers. But yes, it's going to depend on the CDP platform company.
Hi, afternoon. Thanks for the very informative sharing. I'm Charmaine from Friesland Campina. So I'm from the marketing procurement team, and I'd like to understand, so for example, my company is still on that CRM journey, right?
Okay.
So how do we evolve, and how do you think would be your advice in us embarking the CDP journey? For example, what do we need to even just get people talking about it and evolve from CRM to CDP?
So I think a great question. I think an important point is that as more and more CDP solution providers are coming up, this kind of new technology is not necessarily meant to replace any of these existing marketing platforms. It's meant to complement them. And so, like recently, a lot of even the larger players like Salesforce, Adobe recently announced their CDP products that may integrate with their own CRM platforms. But the first step is begin, okay, identifying what kind of data is our company collecting? Can it be utilized? And a good first step is the CRM. So if, say, a company onboards a CRM platform, such as like Salesforce or another one, then, okay, what other data sources do we have? One other common data source is a website or a mobile app. One insight that can be gained by this kind of technology that you can't with just a CRM alone would be, okay, let's take a look at a profile that we have in our CRM, but we don't necessarily know that profile's interactions on our website or interactions on our mobile app, et cetera. And that's actually one quick win with just 2 or 3 data sources integrating, say, the web history with, say, a CRM based on 2 platforms that a company may be using that tailored and personalized communication can start to occur.
Sorry, maybe just add on a leading question to this as well.
Of course.
So, for example, like you mentioned, there's a lot of CDP platforms available and agencies that we can potentially partner with. So in your view, as clients, how should we best select? What's the selection criteria when we're reviewing such agency?
Yeah, so great question as well. I think that, one good place to start is your current marketing stack that you have. So again, when it comes to the integrations that these platforms have, a platform that has a lot of integrations with with a lot of the tool set that your company may be using, that's going to make the onboarding process much easier. One of the benefits to CDP is that you can say it's going to require much less engineering effort than if you were to take a traditional data warehouse and try to connect these sources itself. But it gets more easier if if you choose one that's actually optimized for your current marketing stack. So based on the current tools that you're using, you may want to find a CDP that's very tailored for that tool set, or something that's very open and flexible with many different platforms if you're using some platforms that are not part of like a particular suite. Thank you.
Oh, down the front. I need a 360-degree view around here.
Thank you. I'm Nanda from ICRC. We are mainly at the CMP stage.
Okay.
But to deploy more, one of the basic, I would say, limitation is really the GDPR aspect. And how do you mitigate this risk? Do you think that those type of CDP solution can land, or are we going to have a backlash of the privacy policy using all those data?
So yeah, great question. GDPR, yes, it's here now, and I think that CDP alone is not a solution to GDPR, but this kind of technology can help assist companies with regulation compliance. And when you think about, say, GDPR, one of the things that you have to do is being able to manage all of the data in these different places, and say a customer can request to delete that data, But it's much more difficult to delete that data if it's in all of these different systems, and oh, did we get all of it? So actually having systems like CDP to kind of collect these systems, it can assist with that part. And some of these platforms you're starting to see build in features that help with GDPR compliance, but it's not going to be, unfortunately, the end-all solution. So it's still going to, come down to the company to make sure they have the right procedures in place to be compliant. But these kind of tools can help with compliance for regulation. Thank you.
Any other questions? I don't know if my mic is on. Is it? Yeah. Just while to think about if there's one more question, we have a few more minutes. I was just going to ask you about 5G. I know you touched on that, and we haven't really spoken about that at all during today's masterclasses. But just in terms of data, I know that 5G, they're saying, is going to be 100 times faster than 4G. And putting it in perspective, a 2-hour movie download will be done in 4 seconds. What is that going to mean to, like, we're going to have more data? What does it mean to probably marketers to be thinking about how do they start transforming this new revolution, I suppose, of moving to 5G?
So yes, 5G is going to bring a lot of innovations. I think that, one additional aspect of 5G improvement that's going to come, in addition to the ones that you just realized, is the stability actor. And that when you look at connected devices and say connected the way the cars of the future are going to interact, or a smart factory, etc., that if it's rigged with all these different sensors, it can only function efficiently if it's stable. And one of the limitations with 4G is that sometimes it's very easy for IoT devices to get disconnected. Well, that could mean like a disruption in the supply chain, or that could mean something difficult with a car, or if you're applying this to like retail marketing that we were starting to dive into, that could mean that you're missing some of these use cases from these devices with these disruptions. And it also, with 5G, you're going to be able to take in just immense more data from within a specific location. So with regards to, say, marketing in the stores of the future, with some of the current infrastructure in place, there's really a limit with 4G on how much data can be utilized from a retail store that's rigged with all kinds of IoT sensors, connected devices. We're talking about connected displays, etc. But 5G is going to start helping breaking down some of these barriers. So now there's going to be much more ways that companies can interact with their customers and personalize the experience within these physical spaces that were previously, impossible just with the previous infrastructure. So as we start, I began to touch on kind of the future may be the blending of these two worlds of, the marketing world and tailoring the customer experience with tailoring the experience with devices. Right now with 4G is kind of, in limitations based on, being able to provide stable experiences. And that's, those kind of limitations are going to hopefully break down in the near future with the advent of 5G.
Terrific. Okay, last call. Anybody? We're done and dusted. One very final question from me then, seeing as everyone's not waking up for this last part, is you said about the fusion between marketing and technology, who now owns the customer? Is it the marketing department? Is it the sales department? Is it the technology part of it? Or does everybody own part of the customer?
That's a great question.
I saved the best.
And I think that one of the challenges that we're starting to see, especially with this new technology that's breaking down these barriers within organizations, is now traditionally this tech was owned by the marketing department. And still, I think that it's going to be driven by the marketing department in the future, but it's going to be now requiring buy-in from the entire organization. Because to really optimize the customer experience, that's going to be touching, say, the customer service department, the sales department, the after-product support department. That may be that previously, when you go back a couple years ago, these different parts of the organization were operating entirely to themselves. But now there's a way for synergy to be created with the data being generated across the organization. So it's, the more people that I talk to and speak to about CDP, they, one of the challenges that, that we're seeing is, creating that buy-in across the organization. But it's starting a lot of times with the marketing department, and the marketing department really becoming an evangelist to personalizing the experience across the company and optimizing that experience and being able to evangelize to the rest of the organization that, even in these other departments that were not previously focused on marketing, now we can improve our brand image across the board by being able to more tailor the experience that they're going to have even with across these departments. So yes, great challenge, and it's going to be difficult for us as marketers in the future to, now we're going to be starting to touch on larger parts of our organization.
Awesome. Some exciting times ahead, I think, but certainly challenging as well. Please thank marketing strategist for the ARM Treasure Data, Sean Valencia.
Thank